Earlier you mentioned about the bonding, that the bonding for fathers take place after the birth, and for the mom it's during the whole, may start during the whole pregnancy and feeling the kicking and so on. Can you talk a little bit about that? Some
Yeah,
mothers might
so
not understand.
yeah, so for mothers, they start the process of, great connections within the womb, talking to the child. And we have been encouraging fathers to do that as they go through the process. But as the child comes into the world, and those changes are taking place in fathers, it is priming them more for engagement with the child and not seeing the child as a threat to their relationship with the spouse, because they realize that there is the need to bond and to take care. So for example, when we talk about even kangaroo care, where the father would, take off the shirt and allow the child to be skin to skin, and mothers do the same. We encourage those kind of things. That these kinds of bonds that fathers develop with their children continue even when there are difficulties in the relationship. So what needs to happen then is that parents need to recognize that regardless of whether or not they don't want the father to be involved in the child's life, the child may develop what we call a subjective attachment to father. So that's why when we talk about fatherlessness earlier, I said to you, it's problematic. We shouldn't even use the term, because even though the father isn't there at this stage, it could be that the child and the father had a very close bond and relationship, that the child internally process things as this is my father and I continue to have an attachment with him. Now, one of the things I've used to help me to explain this a bit is continuous bonds theory. Continuous bonds theory is within the grief and bereavement literature, which says that after someone has died, you continue a relationship with the person, but in a transformed manner. So, for example, there are persons who will go to the grave every birthday or every anniversary. That's a part of having a meaningful memory and connection with the deceased, while not believing that the person is here in the present. The same thing can happen when fathers leave the home, that children can subjectively be attached to their fathers, and therefore this relationship continues. For example, another way we talk about it is in terms of symbolic social influence. Have you ever heard somebody that you love and respect, like your professor or your mother, saying something to you when you're trying to make a decision and you're looking around because you hear the person's voice in your head? Don't do that. And you literally can hear the person constraining you and calling you to books. Why? Because you respect that person so much. Though the person isn't present, the person continues to have an impact on your life. And that's why I am saying that even when fathers are not physically present, they can continue to have an impact on their children's life, even through symbolic social influence that we have to take into consideration. So it is very complex for us to try to disentangle the impact of fathers and children's life. So what we need to do then is to make sure that mothers and fathers operate in such a way that children feel connected to them even when there are difficulties in the relationship, because children can be living with mothers, but at the same time, still respect fathers even more. Like one mother, I remember saying to me, it hurts me how this boy idolizes, or this girl idolizes his or her father, because I am the one who is here struggling with them, sometimes can't find anything to give them, but they think that daddy is the better parent, right? That hurts me, because every time they just want to run after daddy, and daddy not doing as much, but they respect their fathers and believe that their fathers have been contributing significantly to their lives and development.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a fascinating conversation. So, even fathers who might think I have to live in a different country, a different state or province, wherever, that you can still have such a meaningful impact in your child, and it's to maintain that sense of connection, maybe the daily or weekly phone calls, that maintaining that form of attachment. But also the attachment starts from in the womb when the mom is pregnant with the child, and it is to continue even though the structure of the relationship with the mother might change. um
Yes.
yeah, and so did you have something else to add?
Yes. And so it's important that within the context of what we're calling modern families,
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges that people face in relationship, where we see some kind of changes taking place, whereby we have to now be talking about fluidity in fathering. And that's why we said that there is multidimensionality and perplexities, because the reality is that a father may not be present at this time, but be present at a later time, and maybe absent and present because of these issues of migration, transnational parenting. It is how we engage and how we support each other in the best interest of the child. It doesn't worth it for us not to get fathers to be involved in the lives of their children, regardless of how bad we think they are. Because the reality is, not only do the person who is claiming to be the perfect one has faults, but the person who is considered to be the one at fault. So there are issues on both sides. We try to navigate those because we understand that things that people used to put up with in the past in relationships, they are not putting up with those things anymore. And
Yeah.
so the reality is that people will say, you know what, let's go our separate ways. But if we go our separate ways, let us maintain our responsibilities to our children. And not only that, let us facilitate each other in being able to do that.
Yes, this is just an eye-opening conversation, and it's just to have mothers realize and fathers that fathers play such a significant role in children's lives. So we started the conversation, you're looking at, the emotional, the academic, the psychological benefits of having father figures in our children's lives, the struggles that fathers have. And I think one of the most important things that came out of this conversation for me, and maybe for other women, is looking at the fact that we take an emotional approach of looking at parenting, and fathers take a more cognitive approach on parenting. So it's for all of us to really reflect and say, especially as mothers, maybe the way that I am expecting him to react is impossible at the moment because that's not how he was socialized to. And fathers as well, having the same kind of awareness that they might expect the mothers to respond in a certain way, and might think the mother is overblowing situations, but realizing that she's taking a different perspective because of also how society has socialized her.